So I did a video the other day on how the Biden White House has decided to not have a joint press conference with Russian President Vladimir Putin in their Geneva summit. During their Geneva summit, they made up some bullshit excuse. I'll link the video up top so you guys can take a look. Anyway, what it does show is that the Biden White House is scared to death to have a joint press conference. Biden and Putin together speaking to the press, unscripted. So they've opted for individual press conferences, each leader going out and speaking to their media on their own, by themselves. For the Biden White House, that means you're going to have a press conference that will be very much stage managed, scripted. All the questions will be pre-planned, all the answers will be pre-planned, pre-scripted. Everything's going to be written up, rehearsed, acted, and that's how it's going to go. So they've shown that they're very scared of having an unscripted joint press conference with the Russian president. And I'm going to play some videos now from the G7 which show you exactly why this is the case. This G7 was a freaking disaster for the Biden White House. And keep in mind that this G7 was also very much stage managed and scripted. That's the amazing part. Make no mistake about it. Boris Johnson, Trudeau, Macron, all the world leaders, all of them were briefed as to how things are going to go down by the White House and the communications team. This was a heavily scripted, heavily stage managed G7 in order to protect Biden. And it still was a freaking disaster because for some reason, the Biden White House decided to let Biden speak to the press. And the gaffes were too many for me to even put together in one video. But I am going to put together some of them so you guys can check it out. So the first video that you guys are going to see, the first one you're going to see is actually not even a gaffe. It's from Macron just coming out and saying that it's good to have Biden be part of the club. It's good to have a US president who's back in the club. And I think the slap that Macron got the other day, I don't know, maybe it knocked some honesty in his head, or maybe like something jarred loose because he's just starting to admit what it's all about, that it's all one scripted elitist club. And he's like just sitting there with Biden and he's just saying, it's good to have you back in the club. It's good to have you as president that's part of the club. Of course, referencing that Trump was not in the club and that Biden is in the club. And of course, Biden is just sitting there nodding his head. Not realizing maybe it's the US that should be leading this group of seven instead of just nodding their heads and just being, yeah, we're part of the club, Macron. I mean, kind of like sovereign nations don't exist. It's just one big elitist Davos club. But anyway, you have this video right now, which I'm going to play for you. And then I'm going to play for you a bunch of videos in succession. One of them is Biden trying to talk about Russia and Syria, but confusing Syria for Libya multiple times. Incredible. Another one is just Biden going off script. He decides to go off script as he's speaking to the press. And I don't even know what he says, just some gibberish. I mean, literal gibberish. EU something, world leader something, makes no sense, and then he gets back on script. So he starts going off script and then he gets back on script. He was talking about climate change, took a jab at Trump because Trump was calling out the climate change BS, and then he goes off script and it's just a bunch of just word salad, man. I mean, it is just word salad. And oh yeah, and then I'll play this video after the Macron. I'll put this video in there. You have a video of Biden who is walking around the G7, I guess, hotel. Gets the setup over there, and he gets lost. And he gets lost in like a cafe. He's walking around. He doesn't realize where he is, just wandering around. And then a reporter is asking him, what do you think of the G7? All this stuff. And Biden like looks at her and he's like kind of perplexed, a little out of it. And then Jill comes to his rescue. And then we have a video. I'll also put a video in there where he calls the Queen. The Queen reminds him of his mother. Guys, it's such a train wreck, man. I'm gonna put a bunch of videos in there. Guys, look at it. This is all the evidence you need to understand why they do not want to put Biden and Putin together at a press conference. Even by himself, Biden tends to go off script, and it's just a train wreck, man. It's a train wreck. Anyway, guys, enjoy the video. Take care.
What we need is cooperation. And I think it's great to have the US president part of the club and very willing to cooperate. And I think that what you demonstrate is that leadership is partnership. And we do appreciate, and I think we can deliver great things for that.
I think we can do a lot too. The United States, I've said before, we're back. The US is back.
How are your meetings going in Cornwall, Mr. President?
I beg your pardon?
How are your meetings going here in Cornwall?
Very well.
Come on.
They always do.
And just say how pleased I am to welcome those who have just joined us, bringing some pretty spectacular weather with them. Prime Minister Modi, President Ramaphosa, President Moon, in just a minute.
And the President of South Africa.
And the President of South Africa, as I said earlier.
Oh, you did?
I certainly did.
When you get mentioned twice, so.
I'll go over that again. Let me tell you, we're delighted. I'm glad to say we're joined by Prime Minister Modi.
Let's go.
About Vladimir Putin in your meeting this week, as you're well aware, the U.S. has been slapping sanctions on Russia for years for its malign activities, and Russia has not stopped. So what specifically will you do differently to change Vladimir Putin's behavior?
Well, first of all, there's no guarantee you can change a person's behavior or the behavior of his country. Autocrats have enormous power. They don't have to answer to a public. And the fact is that it may very well be, if I respond in kind, which I will, that it doesn't dissuade him. He wants to keep going. But I think that we're going to be moving in a direction where Russia has its own dilemmas, let us say, dealing with its economy, dealing with COVID, and dealing with not only the United States but Europe writ large and in the Middle East. And so there's a lot going on where we could work together with Russia. For example, in Libya, we should be opening up the passes to be able to go through and provide food assistance and vital assistance to a population that's in real trouble. I think I'm going to try very much hard to.
He died.
It is. And by the way, there's places where
Anything to do with your visit?
I shouldn't be starting off and negotiating in public here, but let me say it this way: Russia has engaged in activities which we believe are contrary to international norms, but they have also bitten off some real problems they're going to have trouble chewing on. And for example, the rebuilding of Syria, of Libya, they're there. And as long as they're there without the ability to bring about some order in the region, and you can't do that very well without providing for the basic economic needs of people. So I'm hopeful that we can find an accommodation where we can save the lives of people for example, in Libya, that consistent with the interest of maybe for different reasons, but reach for the same reason, the same result.
I want to ask you about a comment that Vladimir Putin said today, but why do you think he hasn't changed his behavior in spite of everything the U.S. has done to this point?
Corn Pop was
He's
a
Vladimir
bad
Putin.
dude.
We had a long talk, and she was very generous, very. I don't think she'd be insulted, but you met my mother. She reminded me of my mother. in terms of the look of her and just the generosity. And I said, ma'am, this is it's a long time. She said, oh no. I said, I wish we could stay longer. Maybe we could hold the cars up a minute. So anyway, she was very gracious and suggested that, well, maybe you shouldn't get the Quad, meaning India, Japan, Australia, and the United States working together. And maybe you shouldn't be pushing on strengthening the European Union to deal with the West, not just to have, and so on. And I said, for an American president to, every president to be sustained or prime minister has to represent the values of their country. And I pointed out, and I mean this sincerely, we're unique. As a country, we're built on, we're unique in the sense that we're not based on ethnicity or geography or religion. We're one nation that said we organized on an idea. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal. Sounds corny, but it's real. And any president who doesn't act consistent with what the raison d'etat for the nation is cannot be sustained at the support of that country.